This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears, with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for December 15th, 2024. This is season 14, episode number 27, and episode number 466 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Power Play Post Show. I am Bob Howard. I am your host, and I'm very excited to be here to talk to you guys. Thank you very much for listening. This is the Power Play Post Show's weekend wrap-up episode show. So thank you very much for joining us. There's a lot to talk about, and you know, I think I'm going to start off here talking a little bit about what the team went through this past 7, maybe even 10 days. If we go back even to just before, not this weekend, but last weekend's games, sickness started to go through the room. And I think there's a lot of people in Binghamton been talking about, oh, there's a sickness going around, everybody's getting it, and I think we need to, be careful. Well, the Black Bears are not, immune from that kind of sickness that can sometimes, get into an office, get into all different types of places. Started off with one of the players getting sick and being around the other guys, and everybody else started getting sick and started going through the room. I don't know if he's still not sick, but the one guy that I heard had not have been sick was Scott Ramekers. He obviously had a good game on Friday night. And I was kind of joking with somebody with the team and said, listen, what is Scott eating or drinking that he didn't get sick and everybody else did? And apparently Scott's going to keep that one a secret. But either way, Scott, if it's something that you can bottle up and put in a can or in a bottle or something, please do. So the rest of us can obviously get that and not get sick as well. But that's adversity. That's what a lot of teams go through this. Not every team will get a sickness that'll go through the whole room. But it does happen in pro sports. It happens in all the winter sports. And, there's always one or two teams that it just goes through everybody. And, the Black Bears are just not immune to that. And it happens. So you got to give 100%. Let's take our, sticks and tap them on the ice for the Black Bears. They did a good job of getting through that type of adversity this past weekend. And yeah, okay, they only got 5 out of the 6 points against a team that only has 1 win on the season. But you know what? There were other things and other factors that were in play. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But, getting through the sickness, and there's really no injuries. There might be a lengthy suspension coming up to Gavin Yates, but, the Black Bears will just get through that as well. This is a league where you're going to have these type of things happen with guys. I want to say, this is a special team, like last year's team is special because they continue to win. They continue to be the tops in the league. And I'm not saying they are the best in the league, even though they are technically playing like they're the best in the league. Because every time you think, oh, this is going to bring the Black Bears down, it doesn't. And if I pull up the standings here, there's a couple teams that are trying to keep pace with the Black Bears, okay? Now, Baton Rouge has played 22 games, and they have 42 points. So we have 2 games in hand on them, and we have 3 more points than them, right? The team that is probably playing as good as the Black Bears, maybe just a little bit better, but they've played 4 less games, is the Carolina Thunderbirds. They have 37 points. They have 10 wins. Only 1 regulation loss. They have 3 overtime losses. And they've won 2 shootouts, right? So they're at 37 points through 16 games. And the Black Bears are 12-3. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I apologize. 16-3-1 through 20 games with 45 points. But if you look at the points percentage, the Thunderbirds are just edging out the Black Bears right now, and they've won 9 in a row. Black Bears have won 3 in a row. The Black Bears are 8-2 in their last 10 games, and the Thunderbirds are 9-0-1 in their last 10 games. So obviously the Black Bears have competition out there, maybe not necessarily in the Empire Division. Watertown has kind of stumbled a little bit, probably since the last time that they played the Black Bears. I know that I think sometime in January I'm going to have Charlie Penns Jr. on the show, and I want to talk to him about this team, because no matter what they've done in these last 10 games, being 6-4 and losing their last 2, this is a step up from last year. They are playing considerably better than last year. Right now, being second place in the Empire Division, but 13 points behind the Black Bears, they also have played 3 less games. There is room for them to grow there. But the Black Bears, I think, are still the class of the league and the class of the Empire Division for sure. And again, going back to it, illness. Everybody's not feeling well. They had a 15-hour trip out to Danville, Illinois. And let's just be honest, when you're sick, not feeling good, and all you want to do is, as Courtney June and myself said on Facebook, you just want to curl up under a blanket, maybe with your pets, maybe, watching TV or something when you're sick. These guys couldn't do that. They didn't do that. They went to work, and they worked 2 games. And so it's one of those things you just got to, give them stick taps for that. You really do. And the Black Bears went out there and continued to do their job. And there's other adversities that are kind of like pulling at them. I do want to say that right now, the Black Bears, one of the things that I'm very happy about, and this is something that needs to be pointed out. First of all, the penalty kill has been great, right? We all know the penalty kill has been great. It maybe wasn't great the first 4 or 5 games of the season, but man, it's really come along. And I really do think that that's great. But there's something else that's kind of coming into play a little bit, and I think this is important to look at, and that's goal differential, right? Through 20 games, they are a plus 30. Now, granted, with Carolina not have played as many games, they're 4 games behind, they're a plus 27. They have a good chance of bettering that. But they haven't scored as much as the Black Bears, and I don't think they're going to score as much as the Black Bears. But damn, they have good defense, and they have shut out 5 opponents, where the Black Bears have only shut out 3 opponents this year. Okay, so there's a difference between Carolina and Binghamton, and Carolina right now does have the strongest strength of schedule that they've done this for. So there's that advantage there to Carolina, just to be fair. But again, Black Bears playing through some illness and playing, and the other thing about through their first 20, they haven't had a solid roster. It's changed. It's been fluctuating. Blake Tosto going up to the Pensacola Ice Flyers in the SPHL. He was waived on Saturday. However, I have talked to Blake. The plan is for Blake to re-sign with Pensacola on Monday morning. Okay? If he's not picked up by any teams in the SPHL, he will more than likely be re-signed by Pensacola. He is not coming back to Binghamton yet. He did assure me, listen, I want to come back. I want to play. I don't think my time is finished in Binghamton, but he's going to be re-signed. This was a management of the roster for Pensacola, and they will be re-signing him tomorrow morning. If he is picked up by another team, he's not reporting to that team. I think he has a relationship now with Binghamton and Pensacola, and he doesn't want to play for another team in the SP. So even if he's picked up, he'll be back with us. If he's not picked up by another team through the waiver wire, he will be playing in Pensacola. He will be re-signed. So I found out that information, so we can kind of not have to worry about the Blake Tosto coming down and releasing a player. So that information I got. Again, if he gets picked up by somebody else, he doesn't want to go to somebody else in the SP, he will come back to Binghamton. Okay, but if he does not get picked up, he's going to re-sign with Pensacola. So that's number one. And again, we have these young rookies who have stepped up and done well. Scott Ramakers is one of those guys. Zach Sirota was a beast on Friday night. He was a beast on Friday night. And I think, Cade Henry, Emerson Emery, they've done really well for themselves. Nick Poirier, been solid, just solid. And that's really what we need from a defenseman who's a rookie who's not going to give you points. He's not. And it's something that I want to talk to Coach Sherwood about. Hopefully in the new year, I'll get him on like we did last year at the new year, and bring him on and talk to him about some of those things. And that's one of the questions I would have for him, is about Nick Poirier not having a lot of points, but being a solid defenseman. And sometimes you're going to have that. Yes, would you like every single person to be on the score sheet every single night? Yeah, of course. But that's not realistic. And you can't manage your team based on, well, you've only got 2 points for us. I have to ignore all the other good things that you've done, right? Because there is something to say that you need to have points to maybe make the most money, right? But if you're a rookie and you're not going to make the most money no matter what, you can look at things a little bit differently, right? I know I'm throwing, how much they're getting paid into this equation without really telling you any details about that. But that is the difference between a Jamie Bussell being released and potentially Nick Poirier being released. Well, one thing is Jamie was making more money and he was expected to be on the points, to get more points. That wasn't happening, right? And, Nick Poirier, it's different. He's a defenseman. He is literally doing things that is not going to show up on the score sheet. That's important to understand. Either way, off topic a little bit there. I do apologize. Let's get back to the heart of the show. First of all, we'll get into our must-reads. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show, whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, we have 6 more questions with Emerson Emery. Okay, so let's get into this. What we're going to do, we're going to talk about Friday night's game, which I think had some controversy. In my opinion, it had some controversy, and we'll talk about that. Then we'll do the 6 more questions with Emerson Emery, and then we'll talk about Saturday. And then we'll kind of wrap everything up after we talk about Saturday's game. But let's talk about this weekend's games, and specifically the Black Bears win on Friday, 6-2 in Danville. Now, number one, first of all, if you reached out to me and you wished me luck or congratulated me or whatever, I had an absolute joy working with Brooks Hill. It was the first time in 8 years that I had done any color commentary. I was a little nervous, maybe a little off my game a little bit, but I very much enjoyed it, and I really, really appreciate Brooks asking me to do Saturday. I was not able to come in and do Saturday's game. I almost canceled what I had going on to do it, but I felt that wasn't the right move. But Brooks, thank you very much for having me on Friday. I'll do it again Saturday. I really wish I could have. But it was an absolute pleasure and it was great. And thank you to all the fans, all of you guys who liked, loved, sent good wishes, congratulations, and all the nice things you guys said. Thank you very much. The Black Bears win on Friday, 6-2 in Danville. In the first period, the Black Bears controlled the beginning of the game and were paid off with a Scott Ramakers goal, 10-22 into the first period, scoring his 3rd goal of the season. CJ Stubbs then scored his 2nd goal of the season just under 2 minutes later, putting the Black Bears up by 2 over the Dashers. Now, Austin Thompson then got the first line on the score sheet with the Black Bears' third goal of the game with 2:41 left to go in the first period, giving the Black Bears a 3-0 lead going into the first intermission. So you got goals in that first period by Ramakers, CJ Stubbs, and Austin Thompson. Why is that important? All 3 lines contributed to scoring in the first period. That's pretty awesome. And that's exactly what a head coach is going to want. Now, just 55 seconds into the second period, the Black Bears got their 4th goal of the game from their captain, Tyson Kirkby. Juan Davis broke up the shutout for the Dashers, scoring their first goal 3:23 into the middle period. The Dashers' best player, Brandon Stojewski, scored the Dashers' second goal of the game, 1:55 into the third period, putting this game at a 4-2 Black Bears lead. Again, captain coming in, scoring a goal. Their best player for the Dashers, he scores a goal. And then I think you had about 15 minutes of the teams, I don't want to say feeling each other out, but it was just kind of like a back and forth. I would say that the Black Bears had more, what's the best way to say it? They had more puck possession, and they controlled the puck more. They just weren't able to get those high-end grade A shots on the netminder for the Dashers, and that's the reason why the score stayed the way it did. Then in the third period, that changed a little bit. Scott Ramaker scored his second goal of the game at the 8:56 mark of the third period, giving the Black Bears a 3-goal lead again. Kyle Steffen completed the scoring, 2:57 left to go in the game with an unassisted goal, securing a 6-2 win. The Black Bears' 19th of the season. Okay, so thoughts on this game. First of all, the Black Bears win. They do it after. Now, they traveled on Thursday, and then they played on Friday, right? So, barring other than the fact that maybe there was some illness and sickness with some of the guys, or they're recovering, right? Because, you're not going to go out there at your worst and play these games. You're going to have recovered some. They were without Dan Weber. They were down defensemen. The one thing that I will say about this team that Brant Sherwood has put together, and it's always been my concern, right? What happens if a couple defensemen go down, right? Jesse Anderson he's already now in his second season of being a full defenseman. Dan Weber doesn't travel with the team, telling me he's not healthy enough to play, right? So that automatically puts you to 5. And when you look at Saturday's lineup card, he's got 4 defensemen on that card. Emerson Emery is one of those. So you have a forward playing D. You have another forward that's in his second year of playing D. And then you have 2 natural defensemen in Dakota Bond and Dan Stone. That concerns me, right? I mean, again, after you see the results, sure, they're good, they're okay, and everything is, playing all right, right? And they're winning games. So, but it's still a concern that, what would have happened if Dan Stone then gets injured, right? Or Dakota Bond or whatever. Jesse Anderson gets injured and can't play. Then you really have to fill in some gaps with guys who haven't played defensemen before. Now, Brant always works through this. The team always works through this, but it's always the concern I have, right? But that wasn't really the biggest adversity, I think, for them throughout the weekend. This is my opinion, so I want people to understand that. I see something, and other people see some bias, unfortunately. And we're going to talk about that right here. I wrote about this, and this is what I wrote earlier today, and I want to kind of read much of what I wrote about this. The biggest adversity this weekend for the Black Bears was the biased actions of one man, Paul Jean, the head of officiating for the FPHL. It was so obvious, his dislike for the Black Bears and for head coach Brant Sherwood, that he did something in a game that you don't see almost anywhere in the pro ranks. And I'll walk you through this. On Friday night in Danville, in a 6-2 win for the Black Bears, there were 3 penalty sequences that had me scratching my head. Here are the 6 penalties, and I'll explain the bias. In the second period, Cam Clark got a slashing penalty. Not a big deal. 2 minutes, 4:42. However, Cam Clark also, at the same moment, 4:42, got a 2-minute abuse of officials call. So he gets an abuse of officials of 2 minutes, basically unsportsmanlike conduct, right? Basically, you're telling the official off in some form or fashion, right? Well, instead of this being a 10-minute misconduct, which it normally is, it usually leads to a 10-minute misconduct, Paul Jean calls it a 2-minute minor, making it a double minor. So almost like if you hit a high sticking double minor, right? It's 4 minutes. In this particular case, they made it a double minor, so the Black Bears are down for 4 minutes. Okay, that doesn't normally play that way for most referees. Paul Jean's using this as a tactic to get at Brant Sherwood's team. And you say, Bob, but that sounds crazy. Well, this hasn't happened at all this year. It didn't happen at all last year. And it didn't happen, for the most part because Paul Jean didn't call Black Bears games. And Paul Jean has a problem, has a head of officiating with Brant Sherwood. That has been documented. So a little bit later on in the period, Dakota Bong gets an elbowing call, 2-minute minor at the 10:57 mark, but then he also gets an abuse of officials, a 10-minute misconduct, which takes him out of the rest of the period. Now, again, that puts them down to 4 natural defensemen at this point in this game. Now, in the third period, Cam Clark gets another slashing call, 2 minutes at the 4:42 mark. And magically, he's sitting in the box for 4 minutes because he gets another abuse of officials, 2-minute call at the 4:42 mark. By the way, those happened at the same time in 2 different periods. Crazy, right? That's not on Paul Jean, but that's crazy. As you can see above, Cam Clark was assessed in the second period a slashing penalty at the 4:42 mark. This I'm okay with, as I was not at the arena, but I do agree that, he probably slashed somebody. But then there was an abusive official call, 2-minute minor added on, not a 10-minute misconduct. What this tactic by Paul Jean did was put the Black Bears down for 4 straight minutes on the penalty kill. I will tell you that most referees in this instance would have sat the player for 10 minutes. This is what Paul did to Dakota Bond after the elbowing call. Dakota is taller than most on the ice, so the elbowing call I'm okay with because he's taller and he probably got that elbow up and hit the guy. The 10-minute misconduct I'm okay with as he sits for 10 minutes, but the Black Bears are only down for 2 minutes on the penalty kill. However, this is not where this ends, and it's where the bias becomes more clear. At the 4:42 mark of the third period, Cameron Clark gets another 2-minute penalty for slashing, but again, another 2 minutes for abuse of officials is tagged on, putting the Black Bears down for another 4-minute penalty kill. At this point, this is with the same player, kick his ass out, right? But no. We all know that the back and forth scenarios of assessing penalties in hockey is what level do you throw the book at the player? This is the same player, and you assess him the same game, 2 4-minute double minors that are clearly an attempt at rigging the game by one referee, the head of officiating of the FPHL. He made a conscious decision to go after Brant Sherwood's team. He then, 6 minutes later, went after Brant Sherwood himself with an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, putting the Black Bears down another 2 minutes on the penalty kill. So Paul Jean made 3 decisions to put the Black Bears down for 6 minutes on a penalty kill instead of handing out 10-minute misconducts. Because in some people's eyes, it is a way to make the team weaker being a man down for the initial 2 minutes and giving them a team a leg up. Most officials in the pro ranks would have given 10-minute misconducts, taking the player off the ice for 10 minutes, thus a greater penalty. This did not work. Instead, the Black Bears barely let any shots through at Connor McAnanima on the power play. The Black Bears were stingy on the penalty kill, and Coach Sherwood agreed. The penalty kill, this is a quote by Coach Sherwood to me, the penalty kill on Friday night was top-notch. I've never seen 10-1 in penalty summary, though we felt like we got cheated. We tried to move on quickly. It's unfortunate we have to change personalities and styles of play for certain officiating. Once again, no excuse, and we find a way. Let's read what Coach Sherwood is saying there again. Change personalities and styles of play for certain officiating. This is a clear sign that the team knows that Paul Jean, again, the head of officiating for the FPHL, is reffing a game that they are targets. That is sad. This is the league that we have to follow as Binghamton fans. It's a disgrace to hockey. It's a disgrace to Binghamton hockey. A disgrace to the players on every team in this league and to the fans. In my opinion, he should not be allowed to ref another game in which he has a beef with one of the coaches or the team. He has made it clear in a lot of ways he's coming after Brant Sherwood-led team. Now, I've talked to other people. Paul Jean also has issues with the Motor City Rockers, Trevor Babbitt, the Port Huron Prowlers, and has absolutely 100% done things in games that has made these games just inappropriate. And it's unfortunate. And again, it has to be said, has to be talked about. Can't talk about it when you're doing the game, publicly, like I was with Brooks Hill. But here, this is an opinion, a talk show, and I'm stating you facts that show you that there's an issue with a referee in this league who is using personal grudges to determine games, or at least try to, and he failed. That's the sad part. He failed. And I don't really care if he knows I said this or didn't say it. I don't care. He literally failed. The Binghamton Black Bears played through it, and they won. And there you go. Paul, you want to make this about you, and this is the problem. Your referees did this last weekend with the Port Huron series in Binghamton. Your referees made it about them. You made it about you on Friday night. And you know what? Let me tell you a little story. You guys can all look this up. Everybody can look this up. Harry Dumas was a referee in the AHL back in the 2000s. He called some games between Binghamton and Wilkes-Barre that were so horribly refereed. He was eventually fired by the AHL. And it took a couple years before he could get another job refereeing, and I think it was some lower juniors up in Canada. It was so bad that Harry was actually known as Harry Dumbass in our league in the AHL. This is the AHL we're talking about, folks. This is only 20 years ago in the AHL when this happened. And there were some really bad games. I was in Philly on a trip, and there was a game between Binghamton and Wilkes-Barre played in Binghamton. I believe it was in Binghamton. There was like 256 penalty minutes. Shortly after that game, Dumas was fired. That's what I can give you as an example. Teams don't lose games because of the referees, but referees in some cases make games about them and about personal grudges. Here's another story that you guys don't know about that I'm going to tell you. Dylan Konecki on Saturday, this was between the second and the third period. So we're 5 periods into the 2 games, and Paul Jean told the EQ manager of the Danville Dashers to tell Dylan that he had to take down his skate blades, his steel that he hung up on the side of the glass. It's been there for 5 periods. And let me ask you this. Why couldn't he just go and tell Dylan? Be a man, skate over, say, Dylan, those got to come off of there. I don't want them there. Instead, he went and he told the EQ manager of the Danville Dashers, or the Dashers Hockey Club. See what I mean? There's a personal grudge that he has between himself and Brant Sherwood / the Binghamton Black Bears. All right, that's enough of that. No more talking about that. Hopefully that is done, although there are 4 games in January where the Black Bears do go back to Michigan, so it'll be interesting to see if we have to mention his name again. Hopefully we don't have to here on the show. But let's get to the 6 more questions with the utility man, Emerson Emery. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers.
Hi, this is Brandon Buczynski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. It's time for 6 more questions with Emerson Emery. Emerson, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
By the way, I never asked. Do you have a nickname? I know Emerson's your first name, and obviously I know a couple of the fans have been calling you Eminem. But
Yeah.
what do you have a nickname?
Yeah, it's usually E. Some guys call me M's too. So
Okay.
E or M's works.
All right, perfect. All right, number 1, who is the greatest influence in your hockey playing career so far?
Oh man, I'd have to go with my older brother.
Oh, did he play as well?
Yeah, he played. He actually played in Binghamton for a little bit in juniors, but yeah, he played. Yeah, all the way up to age out year of juniors.
Oh, very cool. And what was it about your brother that influenced you so much?
Yeah, he was. He's always been a hard-nosed guy, and was never shied away from hard work. So that's kind of, I think, rubbed off on me, and just how to be a hockey player, but more importantly, be a solid person. So yeah, I owe a lot to him.
No, that's a great influence to be on somebody, especially hard work, definitely, without a doubt. Number 2, name, and this one's really for me. This is a personal one for me as someone who played when I was a kid. Name the one pregame ritual that you have to do before every game, because every hockey player's got pregame rituals. What's the one thing for you that you have to do?
So it may sound odd, I guess, but so it depends on the song, but definitely a certain amount of songs. I enjoy heavy metal before games. But,
oh, nice.
Yeah, part of it is also just making sure my stick is all good. So I'll kind of go, I'll hold the whole stick and kind of just slowly motion and just kind of get a feel for it. If that counts as a ritual.
I think it does, because you probably do that every single game no matter what. So
yeah.
You said you like to listen to heavy metal before games. Country night, I went home with a headache. I know a lot of the guys on the team love their country. Morgan Whalen was a big popular choice last year for the six more questions. But I have to ask you, what's your favorite heavy metal band?
Oh, man, I would have to go with probably A Day to Remember.
Oh, very cool. Very good band. Very good band. I'm a metal guy myself, so country night, yeah. Okay. Moving on. Number 3, for vacation destination, are you a beach guy, camping, or staycation? And I have a feeling, from knowing from where you are and what we've already talked about, I know the answer to this, but are you a beach guy, camping, or staycation?
Can I throw the mountains in there?
Yeah, absolutely. That's camping. Yeah, without a doubt.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'd go with camping and up in the mountains.
No, I totally get that. If I could get my wife to go camping, that's where I would be as well. All right. Number 4, outside of hockey, which do you prefer? MLB, NBA, NFL, MLS, or the PGA?
Oh, man. That's a tough one, because I've recently, over the last, say, 2 years, I've gotten into golf. I don't watch the MLS, but I do watch. I watch a lot of European soccer.
Really? Okay.
Yes. So, but if I had to pick, I would go PGA.
PGA. Okay, gotcha. Number 5. If you were picking a movie, would it be a comedy, drama, sci-fi, romantic, or horror?
I would go with. I'd go with sci-fi.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Now, I'm a big sci-fi guy, so I have to ask, what is your favorite kind of like series of films sci-fi wise?
You know, it's funny. I was always more of a show guy.
Okay.
But I'm currently in the midst of watching the Alien franchise.
Oh yeah, but that's my favorite. That's my wife's favorite series is the Aliens series.
Okay.
She loves that.
I just watched the Prometheus the other night.
Yep.
And I plan to watch a few others on the bus here. But I think my favorite I'd have to go with Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, I love Lord of the Rings as well. My wife fell asleep during the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, it was not good. It was not good. It was a long drive back from the movie theater on that one. She just didn't like it. I was like, hey, well, you know, I mean, you don't like The Hobbit, you're not going to like that, and I should have known better. All right, number 6, and this is the one that I've kept from last year that I ask everybody. A zombie apocalypse has broken out, and you're trapped in a hockey arena. Okay. Who is the one person, dead or alive, fictional or non-fictional, that you would like to have in the arena with you?
Oh man, I would. I'll go with my first thought. I'd go with the Mr. Hockey himself, the Gordie Howe.
Mr. Gordie Howe. Well, nobody has picked a hockey player yet. I love it.
Really?
So Gordie Howe, probably because he could use his stick, a puck, and pretty much anything else to kill zombies if he needed to, right?
Yeah, he could chuck them too, and I think he'd know how to survive pretty well. He survived in the NHL for a long time.
Oh my God! What, 40 years, 4 decades?
Yeah.
I mean, just the man was a beast, without a doubt. Emerson, thank you so much for answering 6 more questions with us here on the Power Play Post Show, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, and we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. That was 6 more questions with utility man Emerson Emery. He plays a little bit of offense, plays a little bit of defense. Pretty much anything that Brant Sherwood asks of him, he will do. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Saturday night's game. The Black Bears come back on Saturday with a 4-3 win in overtime, also in Danville, Illinois. And listen, let's be honest. They've now won 4 times in extra stanzas, if you want to call it, right? So they've won 3 games in overtime. They've won 1 game in the shootout. But let's get into this game. All right, in the first period, the Dashers take their first lead this season over the Black Bears with a goal from Brandon Stojewski, his second goal of the weekend at the 9:52 mark of the first period. The Black Bears' Austin Thompson got the equalizer on a greasy goal right in front of the Dashers' netminder Parker Rutherford at the 13:34 mark to tie the game at 1 goal apiece. In the first period, when the YouTube feed came up, you could see a fog over the ice, nothing like Fog Bowl in Binghamton over 15 years ago against the Albany River Rats, but definitely noticeable. The Black Bears started the game on the power play as the Dashers were tagged with a pre-game warm-up violation penalty, meaning someone was likely not off the ice in time. The Black Bears were not successful on that power play. A pretty even first period for the two teams, even though I would say the Black Bears had the slight edge, controlled the puck 60% of the time. Shots on goal was Binghamton 14, the Dashers 11. By the way, in that first game, Binghamton had like 58. I think it was like 58 shots on goal. Crazy. In the second period, and they had 11 in this game on Saturday in overtime. Craziness. All right. In the second period, the Dashers got the lead back off the stick of Jaeger Kabatijev, who scored 6:26 into the second period after receiving a pass from the Dashers' first goal scorer, Brandon Shashkevsky, with the Dashers' Juan Davis in the penalty box for high stick, and the Black Bears scored the first man-up goal of the weekend off the stick of Cameron Clark at the 4:23 mark, with 4:23 left to go in the middle period. All right, the Black Bears started on the penalty kill, and at the beginning of the second period, as Gavin Yates was given a 2-minute penalty for unsportsmanlike and a 10-minute game misconduct for derogatory language, taunts, or slurs, which will likely come with a suspension. And because Gavin's previous suspensions last year, this will likely be a long suspension. Please note, I do not know what he said or what he did. However, with Paul Jean, head of officiating ref in the game, I do not see Dave Jackson being soft on the Black Bears in this suspension. Again, part of that bias that they have against a Coach Sherwood-led team. Cam Clark got the first power play goal of the weekends for either team. I still give the edge to the Black Bears in this period, but the Dashers has some pretty good chances on Nolan Egbert. Shots on goal was Binghamton 16, Dashers 11, for a total of 30 and 22. Okay, third period. With Chris Mott in the box for tripping, one of the Dashers lost the edge at the blue line, allowing Tyson Capri to come streaking in and score the shorthanded goal just 3:39 into the third period. The Dashers tied the game up late in the final period with a goal off the stick of Nikolai Saloff with just 4:39 left to go in the third period. All right, so third period notes. The Dashers played better tonight. Definitely 100% they played better, as they did make roster changes, and it did seem to give them more skill on the ice. The Black Bears had the only 2 penalties in the third period. Through the first 15 minutes of the period, they did score on the first penalty kill, the shorty by the captain. Okay. The Dashers took a defensive zone penalty at the 17:26 mark, which ended the Dashers' second power play goal in the period, giving the Black Bears some late power play time. Neither team could get the go-ahead goal with some power play time at the end of the third period, so both teams head to OT. Shots on goal in the third period, Binghamton 17, Dashers 15, for a total of 47 and Dashers 37. Okay, so Binghamton had going through the three periods, 47 shots on goal. The Dashers had 37. All right, in the OT period, it seems whenever you need a clutch goal, you either get it from the captain or his left-hand man. I say left-hand man because he's on the left side usually, and that's Austin Thompson. As Thompson scored the game-winning goal for the Black Bears at the 4:26 mark of the OT period, sending the Black Bears home with 5 points on the weekend and their 16th win of the season. The Eggman had to make a couple big saves early in the overtime period. 2 odd man rushes. Egbert was good both times. Excellent OT period by the Black Bears, who had 11 shots in the OT period. Wow, 11 shots. And Nolan Egbert had 3 excellent saves, and 3 excellent game-winning saves for the Black Bears. Shots on goal in the OT period was 11 for Binghamton and the Dashers 4. And given the totals, Binghamton 58 and the Dashers 41. That's a lot of shots for the Black Bears to give up, but they did have 58 shots on goal in this entire game. Now, one thing we didn't mention, I do want to mention, is that Connor McAnanama, without a doubt, had a great game on Friday. Nolan Egbert, also great game, only giving up 3 goals. I think Connor only gave up 2 goals. Both had excellent outings this weekend. And I think it's, I don't think with some of the sickness that was going on, it was probably a good idea to put both guys or one of the guys in for both nights. I think it was great to split this week just because of the sickness. You want guys to continue to heal and get better. So that's definitely important. I do also want to bring up Don Oliveri was playing for the Reading Royals on Saturday night. He got to play in front of his family. Again, that's important to him. He really wants his family to see him play some hockey in these last couple years that he's going to play. So he got to call up to the ECHL. And that's two players from the Binghamton Black Bears that have seen time now in the ECHL. This is important. This is the important step that the FPHL needs to make, which is to get players up to the ECHL. Count that as a call-up, right? Get that, boom, marked. We want to see that, okay? Again, I want to mention, I don't think Blake Tosto will be back with the Black Bears at the moment, just because I do expect him to be signed in the morning at some point. There should be some sort of announcement probably coming from Pensacola, unless he was picked up by another team. He has told me he's more than likely not going to that team in the SPHL, but returning to Binghamton if that happens. But if not, he will be re-signing with the Pensacola Ice Flyers. So that's all the news. I think that's important. Again, the Black Bears doing very well. They have 45 points through 20 games. That's a 750. So they've gotten 3/4 of their potential points that they could get. That's pretty good. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They were winners of 3 in a row. And they really have been playing the best in the Empire Division without a doubt. It's just whether or not can they match up with Baton Rouge? Can they match up with Carolina? Can they match up with Columbus? I think they can match up with Columbus. I think they have a good chance of matching up pretty well with Baton Rouge. We'll see about Carolina. So that'll be the interesting thing. That might not happen until, the finals. We'll see. But either way, hey, listen, let's get to the final reads. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show, whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. If you're listening to this, just go to Facebook and search for the Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all of your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. Thank you to Rob Lapolis, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, as well as from the Binghamton Black Bears utility, forward, and defenseman, Emerson Emery. Folks, I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for listening. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.